He came in undercover to see how customers were treated. What he heard behind him confirmed his worst fear. Asterisk, asterisk. He parked his old Ford Ranger just outside the showroom, the engine ticking in protest. As he turned the key, it was a dusty blue pickup, paint chipped on the sides, the driver's seat stitched with duct tape. No one gave him a second glance when he stepped out, which was exactly what he wanted. Plain jeans, a canvas jacket, and work boots caked in dried-up red dirt made him blend in effortlessly. To the outside world, he looked like a guy who'd just come off a job site. Maybe welding, maybe roofing. Nobody would have guessed that less than 12 hours ago. He'd been in a conference room signing payroll checks for this very place. The dealership sat just outside Amarillo, Texas. Not too big, not too flashy. A Chevrolet GMC joint on the edge of a busy road. He'd bought it 5 years ago, rebranded the entire place, rebuilt the service center, hired young, and paid well. But lately, there had been whispers, ones he couldn't ignore. His assistant, Melinda, had brought him 3 separate complaints in the last 2 months, all from Black or Latino customers. They all shared the same sentiment. They felt talked down to or simply ignored. He wanted to believe it was a misunderstanding, a one-time slip-up, but something deep inside told him otherwise. So here he was, walking through his own dealership, no one realizing the man who paid their salaries had just walked through the front door. Need help with something? A voice called out, dry, flat. He turned to see a salesman in his mid-30s, thinning hair, clipboard tucked under his arm, staring at him without smiling. "Yeah," the CEO said, his voice casual. "Looking to buy a truck." The man shrugged. "New or used?" "Used." Another shrug. "They're all over there." He pointed toward a row of dust-covered trucks parked under the midday sun. No walkthrough, no handshake, no welcome. The CEO nodded, moored himself into the salesman, and headed toward the trucks. Nearby, a young woman and her husband, white early 30s, both in golf shirts, stepped out of a black SUV. A second salesman, younger, with gelled-up hair and flashy teeth, was already jogging toward them. "Welcome in, y'all," the younger man said cheerfully. "Can I get y'all coffee or water while we take a look? AC's working just fine inside, too, by the way." The CEO caught all of it. He stopped at a silver Sierra 1500, clean, recent model, minor dent on the passenger door. The price tag read $24,300. He bent to check the tires. Behind him, the first salesman reappeared, hands in pockets. "That one's got some miles on it, but she runs all right." "How many miles?" "Little over 110. Maintenance record thing we got on file. You want me to ask someone?" The CEO stood up slowly, taking a second to look around. The couple inside were already laughing with the second salesman. They hadn't even looked at a single truck yet. He turned back to the man in front of him. "Yeah, I'd like to see the maintenance record, and maybe take it for a test drive." The salesman sighed, like it was a hassle. "Sure, I'll get the keys." As the man walked off, the CEO pulled out his phone and opened his notes app. Asterisk Silver Sierra 1500. Salesman didn't know mileage or records. Zero engagement. Asterisk. This wasn't about being difficult. This was about truth. He glanced at his reflection in the truck's window. A man in his late 40s. Faint gray in his beard, calloused hands from years before the boardrooms. But his eyes were sharp. He remembered too well what it felt like to be sized up by someone who thought you had nothing to offer. That memory never really fades. The wind picked up, carrying the sound of distant laughter from the showroom. But what came next would cut deeper than he expected. The salesman returned 5 minutes later, dangling the keys from one finger, a wrinkled printout in his other hand. "Here's your record and the keys," he said with all the warmth of a DMV clerk on his third shift. "Just bring it back in 20. The CEO took the paper, glanced at the half-filled maintenance log. Oil changes, 1 tire rotation, a battery replacement. Sparse. The dates didn't even match the odometer reading. He folded the sheet and slipped it into his back pocket. "Thanks. Mind if I ask a few questions before I drive it?" The salesman looked at him like he'd asked for a foot rub. "Like what?" "Accident history. Number of owners. You mentioned it runs all right. That means it's got issues. The man blew out a breath, shifted on his heels. It's been an offender bender, nothing major. As for owners, maybe 2, 3. Don't quote me. And no, nothing wrong with it. I said it runs, didn't I? The CEO gave a tight smile. You did. Just figured I'd double-check, since I'd be the one buying it. Another shrug. The salesman didn't even try to hide his impatience. But before he walked off, the CEO added, if I had a polo shirt and a lease in my hand, you think you'd be talking to me differently? The question hung there. The salesman blinked, unsure whether it was a joke or something else. Instead of answering, he turned and walked away. The CEO didn't call after him. He just stood there, keys in hand, watching the guy vanish into the building. The lot was quiet now, heat shimmering off the pavement. A truck horn blared from the road beyond the fence. But inside the dealership walls, it was all too clear what was going on. He got into the Sierra, started the engine. The seat squeaked. The AC wheezed before blowing warm air. He adjusted the rear-view mirror and pulled out slowly, driving around the block. It gave him time to think. He didn't want to believe this was what the dealership had become. But everything he'd seen so far confirmed what the complaints hinted at. Bias wasn't in the system. It was the system. He circled back, parked in the same spot, and stepped out. Inside, the showroom was all bright lights and tile floors. The couple from earlier were now seated comfortably, sipping bottled water, while the young salesman pointed at a digital screen. No one looked at him as he entered. Not the receptionist, not the manager glancing down at his laptop. He could have been a ghost. He walked straight to the front desk. Hey, I just test drove the Silver Sierra. I'd like to move forward on it. The receptionist, a thin woman with a tight ponytail, looked up. Which one? 2016 Sierra. Silver. 110,000 miles. She typed something, then looked back at him. Let me find someone for you. He waited. No smile. No thank you for coming in. Just a stare and a tap of the keyboard. After another minute, the same disinterested salesman reappeared, clipboard in hand. You ready to talk numbers? Let's. They walked over to a cluttered desk in the corner. The chair squeaked under the CEO's weight. The salesman tapped at his screen with 2 fingers, slow and irritated. You got financing or paying cash? Cash. That got a quick glance. Really? Yeah. Problem? No. Just most folks don't. The CEO leaned back slightly. I'm not most folks. They went back and forth over the price. The salesman tried pushing add-ons, warranty plans, undercoat protection, pointless stuff. The CEO declined all of it, voice steady but polite. He'd done this dance before, many times. Across the showroom, he spotted something that made his stomach turn. A tall black man, probably early 20s, in a faded hoodie and jeans, stood awkwardly near the door, holding a folder, clearly waiting for help. No one approached. No one said a word. The CEO watched as the young man took a few hesitant steps forward, then turned and walked out. No contact, no pitch, nothing. The CEO's jaw clenched slightly, but he kept quiet. Back at the desk, the salesman pushed the paper forward. Sign here if everything looks good. The pen was halfway to the paper when a voice behind him rang out, sharp and frustrated. Why is he getting help while I've been waiting here 10 minutes? But that voice would change everything. Andre didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. He stood there, calm, steady, unshakable, while the truth settled over the room like thick dust. In that moment, no one could hide behind polite smiles or company slogans. He turned to the white man who had started it all. You want to talk about fairness? Ask yourself how fair it is to judge a man based on nothing but his boots and jacket. The man muttered something under his breath. But Andre didn't flinch. He wasn't doing this for himself. He was doing it for the kid who walked out without being seen. For the single moms who came in hoping for help, but got talked over. For everyone who never got a fair shot in places just like this. The salesman, still holding the business card, looked like he'd aged 10 years in 10 minutes. I've been patient, Andre said. I believed in building a business that took care of its customers. Not just some of them, all of them. And I believe that if I hired good people, paid them right, gave them room to grow, they'd treat others with respect. He took a step closer. But what I saw today, that's not just poor service. That's failure. The finance manager had appeared now, standing a few steps behind the receptionist. The younger salesman, the one who'd rolled out the red carpet for the couple earlier, peeked around the corner, then quietly backed out. Andre didn't look away. You think I didn't notice that the couple in the SUV got greeted the second they stepped out? Full smile, full pitch, waters in hand. And yet, I got a grunt and a finger pointed toward the lot. He shook his head, not in anger, but in disappointment. I've worked too hard to let this place turn into a gatekeeping machine. The salesman stammered. Mr. Talbot, I didn't mean to. That's the problem. Andre cut in. You don't mean to, but you still do. There was a silence in the room now. Not the awkward kind, but the kind that comes when everyone knows what was just said can't be ignored anymore. Andre turned toward the finance manager. How long have you been working here? The man straightened. 3 years, sir. And how many times have you seen something like this happen? The manager looked down, hesitant. That's what I thought. Andre turned back to the desk, picked up the pen again, not to sign the paperwork, but to cross out his name, one strong line straight through the contract. I won't be buying anything today, he said, loud enough for the room. The salesman's jaw dropped. But it's a solid truck. We're already halfway through the paperwork. You didn't sell me that truck, asterisk, Andre said. I was already sold when I came in. You just gave me a reason not to close. A pause. Then he added, and after today, you're done. The salesman blinked. I what? You're fired. Effective immediately. The manager took a cautious step forward. Should I call HR? No need, Andre replied. I'll handle it personally. The man stood there, stunned. Andre didn't ask him to leave. He didn't need to. The silence from every corner of the room was louder than any goodbye. He turned back toward the other employees watching from behind desks and corners. If you think your job is to move vehicles, you're in the wrong business. Your job is to serve people, all people. The truck is the product. Trust is the sale. He let that sink in. Then, softer now, almost like he was speaking to himself, he added, I built this place so folks wouldn't have to feel like they were proving something just to be taken seriously. And if I have to tear it down to fix that, I will. But just when it seemed like the message had landed, something unexpected would push him even further. Andre turned to leave. He wasn't storming out. He walked with the quiet certainty of a man who knew who he was. But before he could take more than a few steps, the customer in the car keys, the one who had complained earlier, opened his mouth again. You think you're teaching some lesson? That's great and all, but you can't fire a guy just because your feelings got hurt. Andre stopped. He didn't turn around right away. He closed his eyes for a second, jaw set, holding back the wave building in his chest. When he turned back, his face was unreadable, but his voice was low and steady. I didn't fire him because my feelings got hurt, Andre said. I fired him because he doesn't know how to treat people with basic respect. There's a difference. The man scoffed, arms folded. You're overreacting. So he didn't roll out a red carpet for you. Big deal. That's not racism. That's just maybe he was having a bad day. Andre stepped forward, closing the distance between them by half. You know what's wild? I want to believe that. I wish it was just a bad day. I wish it was a one-off. But it's not. I've got complaint emails from customers who look like me, telling me the exact same things I lived through today. And now I've seen it for myself. He pointed around the showroom. I watched the young man walk out, without anyone saying a word to him. I watched this team ignore someone standing at the door. Not once, not twice, but consistently. That's not one bad day. That's a culture. A hush had fallen again. The few customers still in the building had stopped browsing, eyes darting toward Andre, some with curiosity, others with guilt. The man shrugged. Whatever. Seems like you're just pulling the race card to feel important. The sentence hit like a slap in the face. Andre took a slow step forward. His voice didn't rise, but it carried more weight than anything he'd said before. You don't know what it's like to walk into a room and feel the temperature change because of how you look. You don't know what it's like to be asked what you do for a living before anyone shakes your hand. You don't know what it's like to have someone explain a contract to you like you can't read. He shook his head. And maybe you never will. But don't you dare stand here and pretend it doesn't happen. Not when you just watched it. The man didn't respond. Andre looked around the room again. He wasn't speaking to just one person anymore. He was speaking to all of them. I didn't grow up with much. My mom cleaned motels. My dad laid concrete until his back gave out. They didn't have connections, no backup plan, just pride. They taught me to work hard and never make excuses. And I didn't make excuses when people called me names, or locked their car doors when I walked by, or watched me shop like I was going to steal something. He paused. His voice cracked slightly, not with weakness, but with truth. I made it anyway. I built something. And I made damn sure to treat people better than how I was treated. That's why this matters. Because what we do here, how we greet people, how we answer their questions, how we make them feel, it says everything about who we are. He let the silence return. No one interrupted. Then, slowly, the man who had caused the scene turned and left. No apology, no words. Just walked out. Andre looked at the employees one last time. This place needs a change. Starting today. But just as he thought the moment had passed, someone spoke up, and it wasn't who he expected. From afar in the showroom, a quiet voice broke through the silence. "Mr. Talbert?" It came from a young woman near the service counter. Mid-20s, soft-spoken, hair pulled into a tight bun. Andre turned to her slowly. He recognized her, barely. She worked part-time in the back office, mostly behind the scenes with paperwork and invoices. Her name escaped him for a second. "Danica," she said gently, almost as if she could read his mind. He nodded. "Danica, right." She stepped forward, voice steady now. "I've been here almost a year. I've seen things I want to say something about, but I figured no one would care." Andre didn't say anything. He let her keep going. "I've seen how certain customers get passed off, how the tone changes depending on who walks in. And when I tried to bring it up to a manager once, quietly, I got told to mind my pay grade. So I did. I stopped talking." Andre's face didn't move, but something in his eyes softened. Danica looked around the room. She wasn't just speaking to him now. I thought it would change eventually, that someone higher up would notice. But maybe we all thought someone else was going to say something. Andre took a slow breath, then walked toward her. "I appreciate you saying it now," he said. She nodded. It needed to be said. He turned back to the rest of the room. Everyone looked different now. Some ashamed, some unsure, a few avoiding eye contact altogether. "I didn't come here to embarrass anyone," Andre said, "but I had to know for myself. I had to see what's been hiding behind politeness and excuses." He looked back at the receptionist, who was now staring down at her desk. "You knew something was off too, didn't you?" She didn't answer at first. Then quietly, "Yeah." "Why didn't you say anything?" "I didn't want to lose my job." Andre nodded slowly. "I get that, but silence lets this stuff grow. The longer we stay quiet, the worse it gets. And then one day, we look around and realize the place we work doesn't resemble the PL." Andre paused, scanning the silent room. Accountability isn't about blame. It's about fixing what's broken. Together. He picked up the discarded business card from the desk. This isn't a badge of perfection. It's a tool, and tools should build things worth keeping. His gaze landed on Danica. "You've seen what's wrong. Help me change it." She swallowed. "Me? You?" A nod. "Yes." Andre turned to staff. "Mandatory meeting tomorrow. We're rewriting how this place works. Starting now." Outside, sunlight burned away the tension. A text from Melinda. "Everything okay?" He replied, "Not yet, but it will be." Then he spotted him. Ezekiel, the ignored customer from earlier, still waiting at the bus stop, folder under arm. Andre crossed the street. "You still need a truck?" Ezekiel eyed him. You own that place, don't you? Yeah, and today I'm owning its failures too. Come back. Let's do this right. A beat. Then Ezekiel followed. Inside, Danica greeted him. No pretense, just respect. Andre watched, arms crossed. This was the business he'd meant to build. Later, in his old Ford Ranger, he let the engine idle. No fanfare, just a choice. Power wasn't a crown, it was a lever, and levers lifted things. He drove off, the sun at his back.